Now on Lemon's World, it's time for an entry in our famous Legends of Lemon series. It'll be on the Opel GT known as the Tinyvette.
We don't have a Lemons Legends. You just made that up, didn't you?
Well, yes.
Now, the Opel GT always shows up on those forgotten classic lists or classics you can buy for under $10,000 and so on and so forth. So it's perfect for Lemons. This particular one, the Tinyvette, goes back in Lemons racing at least to 2011, which is as far back as our current online registration system goes.
So, you made up the Legends of Lemons thing already. You got us into that, and now you're saying this is one of them, and it's not even worth doing the research to find out when it started?
Since 2011, the Tinyvette has done 30 plus Lemons races. It's won Class C multiple times. It's scored an IOE and an I Got Screwed. Outside of Lemons, it's done car shows. They did a Bonneville top speed run and even a coast-to-coast cannonball run.
So, what is a Tinyvette? Well, the Tinyvette is a 1969 Opel GT done up in a yellow Corvette C5R livery for two reasons. One, because of course, Opel GT looks like a tiny Corvette. And two, that was how long ago it was when this thing started racing.
So we know that nice Opel GTs are cheap, which means that crappy ones found rotting under a tree, like the Tinyvette, are gonna be way less than that.
Now, weirdly, at the time, Team Captain Mike, he wasn't even an Opel guy. He actually found two of these cars. They were rotting under trees. Both of them were $500 together. And he thought, oh, how bad can that be? It looks like kind of a Corvette-looking Japanese car. He later found out they were German and was really disappointed.
So the one that he prepped for Lemons racing, like all Opel GTs, came with a 1.9-liter four-cylinder engine. The Tinyvette still has the original Type engine, but it's this heavily modified version. It's a 2.5. This is the kind of thing we let old cars get away with in Lemons. You can soup them up as much as you want because it's old, and also because, specific to the Tinyvette, Mike has put probably 20 engines in this thing over the years, and we figured if you can figure out a way to make an engine last, do whatever you want.
Transmission is a Getrag 245 speed. I have one of those in a Jaguar that's not supposed to be there either, let me say. Great gearbox. Problem with the original gearbox, it lasts about 1.5 Lemons races. The one race is great. The 0.5, yeah, that sucks.
Just like the Corvette for grown-ups, the front suspension uses a transverse leaf spring. In the rear, it's got regular coil springs. All of this hardware on the Tinyvette is mostly stock, aside from a set of $40 KYB shocks, which were installed after Mike found that the $15 Monroes would explode under 10/10 Tinyvette competition driving.
You know what doesn't work in 289 Cobras, C4 Corvettes, and Opel GTs? Transverse leafs. Brakes are basically stock. I mean, they got vented rotors on it and fancy fluid and, competition pads, but car weighs less than a ton, so you really don't need a lot of brakes. And the wheels are just Team Dynamics 15x7. They're like stolen from somebody's spec Miata.
Now, the main attraction to this car, aside from being a crappy old Opel, is the Corvette Racing C5R livery, which is done with a fully Le Mans-worthy Rust-Oleum sunburst yellow paint job. It's got a rollered-on base coat followed by a sprayed final finish. Body modifications include a fiberglass air dam up front, $20 rear wing, and a bunch of custom decals based on the real Corvette stuff. From 100 feet, maybe 100 yards, maybe 100 miles away, it looks like a pretty nice car.
Out on the track, actually, it's 50-50 weight distribution. It's got tons of grip. It's got a small footprint you can get through traffic. Mike does say that looking up at the door handles of Crown Victorias can be a little disconcerting, but all in all, for a 60-year-old race car, this is a pretty good endurance racer.
One nice bonus is that this car is street registered, and because Mike looks for what he describes in his own words, opportunities to impress/horrify people, it gets out pretty frequently for non-Lemon stuff. It's been featured in 2 exhibits at car museums, and as we mentioned before, it did a Bonneville top speed run where it reached 117 miles an hour, at which point it melted a piston and shot the dipstick out the hood.
And then there was the Cannonball. Well, you know about the Cannonball Baker Sea to Shining Sea trophy, right? You start in New York and you go to LA as fast as you possibly can. Except these guys were already in Sacramento and they didn't want to pay for a hotel, so they did the Cannonball Baker Isosceles Triangle, got in the car, floored it, got to New York, looked up at the Red Ball garage sign, said, yep, there it is, did a U-turn, came all the way back to LA, did it in reverse. It was totally awesome. They even wrote a book about it. I mean, I think it was called like Profiles in Courage.
So there you go, the Tinyvette. What an amazing car, team, and captain. They are true legends of lemons.
We ready for Opel performance? All right.
Yeah.